And we are live, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. It is 6:30 p.m., so I will call this planning meeting to order. And I will do so with a formal territorial acknowledgement by recognizing the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation. We respectfully acknowledge that the municipality of Brighton is located on the Mississauga and Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga. The Council of the Municipality of Brighton respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I will also advise that due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be held using electronic conference technology. Members of council, municipal staff, municipal consultants, delegations, people presenting at the statutory public meeting are all engaging in tonight's meeting through video conference. Some may be phoning in to the video conference as well. The public is invited to join us by viewing this meeting live on the Municipality of Brighton YouTube channel. I will also note that once we proceed into closed session, the live YouTube stream will end for the duration of tonight's planning meeting. And that takes us right into the approval of the agenda, and the motion before me reads that council approve the May 10th, 2021 council planning meeting agenda as presented. Is there a mover? Councilor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Vink. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, will you please call the vote? Members of council, please unmute yourselves.
Councilor Ron Anderson. Where'd he go?
Yes.
Councilor Mark Bateman.
Yes.
Councilor Doug LeBlanc.
Yes.
Councilor Emily Rowley.
Yes.
Councilor Mary Tadman.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Laura Vink.
Yes.
Mayor Brian Ostrander.
Yes.
It's carried.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. We have no delegations this evening. So that takes us into our statutory public meeting. And the motion reads that council move into the statutory public meeting May 10th, 2021 at 6:33 p.m. Is there a mover? Councilor LeBlanc. Seconded by Councilor Anderson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Councilor Ron Anderson.
Yes.
Councilor Mark Bateman.
Yes.
Councilor Doug LeBlanc.
Yes.
Councilor Emily Rowley.
Yes.
Councilor Mary Tadman.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Laura Vink.
Yes.
Mayor Brian Ostrander.
Yes.
It's carried.
Thank you. So before we proceed into the items in our statutory public meeting, I will read this information that is pertinent to any people who wish to be present or may wish to make an appeal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the municipality of Brighton in respect of the proposed plan of subdivision, zoning bylaw amendment, or consent before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to it, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the municipality of Brighton to the local planning appeal tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the municipality of Brighton in respect of the proposed plan of subdivision, zoning bylaw amendment, or consent before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval of it, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the municipality of Brighton in respect of the proposed plan of subdivision, zoning bylaw amendment, or consent, you may make a written request to the municipal clerk, Candace Dorr. And with that, we move into the first item in our statutory public meeting. And the purpose of this item is to request the decision of council for proposed consents and a zoning bylaw amendment for the following applications, being file numbers B13-2020, B14-2020, and Z15-2020. The owners are Andrew Sherman and Mary Anderson, care of Audra Anderson, Sherman, and Scott Anderson. The applicant is Sean Legere of RFA Planning Consultants. The location is part lot 25, concessions B and C, part of road allowance between concessions B and C, except part 1 and 2 of registered plan 38R 5769 at 677 County Road 64. And Ms. Doherty, are you here with us?
Mayor, no, the consultants on behalf of the application haven't been able to attend today. They both had some issues to attend to.
Will you be answering these questions, Mr. Walsh?
Yes, I will be.
Thank you. So, Mr. Walsh, by what method and on what date was notice of these consent and zoning bylaw amendment applications given?
Notice of the consent and zoning bylaw amendment application was given by ordinary mail to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject property. The application was also circulated to all appropriate agencies as required under the Planning Act. And a signed notice was also posted on the property.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. And you'll have to unmute yourself when I go to this. I've muted everyone because we're getting some feedback. So I'll get you to unmute yourself, and please advise the background regarding these consents and zoning bylaw amendment applications and what they would accomplish.
Sure, as you've indicated, Mayor, the lands are located at 677 County Road 64. Application consent B14-2020 is a request to create an easement or a right-of-way that's required to allow for the sharing of a mutual entrance. I should correct myself, not saying a mutual entrance so much as a singular entrance with a bit of a right-of-way over the subject lands to the neighbors to 681 County Road to the east. The other application for consent, B13-2020, is for the creation of a new lot. The new lot is vacant and the retained lands have an existing home on them. The size of the new severed lot is about just under 2 acres, and the severed is of the full 80 meters frontage with a 2-acre area approximately, and the retained lands would have under a 20-meter frontage on County Road 64 and have a lot area of 7.7 hectares. The zoning bylaw amendment application is requested to rezone lands, the severed lot, to the rural residential zone and to the environmental protection zone. There is a flood-prone area that is to remain in place and expand slightly. The application is also to recognize, the zoning bylaw amendment application is also to recognize the reduced lot frontage of the retained lands with having only the under 20 meters frontage, and to recognize reductions in lot front or setbacks from some of the natural features and the flood-prone area.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Does the owner or applicant wish to make any comments?
Yes, Your Worship. Before I begin, I have a brief presentation. I have clocked myself at about 13.5 minutes. So if with your grace, Your Worship, I would appreciate an extra few minutes.
I don't think under the statutory public meeting rules I'm allowed to cut you off, Mr. Legere, so you're lucky, I think.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. My name is Sean Legere, Senior Planner with RFA Planning Consultant, agent for these applications. Also in attendance tonight by either Zoom or YouTube are all of the owners of and their family. That's 6 people in total. I am pleased to share that the owners are all family members and all are in agreement with the applications. In my presentation this evening, I will review the context of the site, the applications, key planning policies, the consultation process, the work initiated, and my professional planning opinion. The area surrounding the site is developed with other rural residential uses to the west, north, and east. Brighton Recycling and the Brighton Speedway are within 500 meters of the site to the north and east. While the immediate area is developed, the existing vegetation on the property offers near complete privacy from County Road 64, important for maintaining a rural landscape. The subject property is within a unique area of Brighton on Presqu'île Bay near the Murray Canal and is very special to my clients. If you have ever been to the property, you would appreciate its natural beauty and place on Presqu'île Bay. The father and mother, Scott and Mary Anderson, live on site. Their daughter, Audra Anderson Sherman, lives on the abutting property, number 681 to the east. Scott and Mary initiated the severance process back in 2018 in order for Audra's daughter, their granddaughter, to reside near her immediate family. My clients are not newcomers to Brighton and have owned the subject lands for over 30 years. They value the shoreline, wetlands, and naturalized areas on the property and wish to preserve it to the fullest extent possible. This said, the property's natural beauty began to fade approximately 5 years ago when a natural decline of the treed areas began, along with silting of the existing creek at the western property line. Since then, the Anderson family began actively planting trees and berry bushes in order to benefit the local birds and wildlife and maintain the site's natural beauty, value, and privacy. This is a similar approach the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry used for the reforestation of the Brighton Provincial Wildlife Area, which Scott Anderson assisted with his time during on Brighton Council. The Andersons go for daily walks on the trails through the site and continuously monitor the health of the property. Next, I wish to confirm the applications. A single lot consent is proposed on lands already zoned rural residential. My clients are not proposing a subdivision with hundreds of lots. They only wish for their granddaughter to build her home so she can reside near her family. The severed lot exceeds the minimum lot area by 2 times and the retained lot by 20 times. The average lot frontage between the severed and retained lots is 50 meters, exceeding the minimum. It is important to note that the proposed lot frontage is due to the presence of a creek near the western property line. The remainder of the lot configuration is informed by existing conditions, being County Road 64, the Presqu'île Bay Marsh, and the existing laneway. It is important to note that these features create an area of the subject property that is functionally separate and isolated from the retained lot and the vegetated area to the west. It is common planning practice when designing rural lots to utilize physical and natural features so as to maintain a rural landscape. I note that the municipal planning consultant is of the opinion that the proposed lot configuration does not conform to the official plan. I respectfully disagree with my colleague. It is my professional planning opinion that these lot design policies are intended to prevent arbitrary and illogical configurations. The proposed lot configuration is based fully on existing and natural features, is logical on this basis, and has therefore had regard to the established building lot pattern in the vicinity, conforming to the general intent and purpose of the official plan. The applications also seek to rezone the property. Upon my involvement, I concluded that a rezoning application was required in order to implement the severance and site-specific wetland survey. Site-specific provisions are also requested to allow the EP zone to be counted as part of the area and frontage of the severed lot, along with recognizing the existing buildings and frontage of the retained lot. I note that the municipal planning consultant is of the opinion that the proposed rezoning does not maintain the spirit and intent of the zoning bylaw. I respectfully disagree with my colleague. In their review of frontage reductions, they neglected to note the RR27 zone, which permits a 13-meter frontage, setting a precedent in Brighton, not the subject application as noted. They also neglected all of the exceptions for minimum lot area. These range as low as 0.4 acres. The proposed lot is 2 acres, and the retained lot is 19 acres, exceeding the minimum by 2 and 20 times respectively, far greater than the precedent set in Brighton. It is the intent and purpose of the prescribed rural residential minimum lot area and frontage requirements to protect public health and safety by requiring adequate separation distance between individual on-site water and sewage services, along with maintaining a rural density of 1 unit per acre. My detailed planning rationale analyzes dwelling separation surrounding the proposal, which is key evidence. I note the municipal planning consultant does not acknowledge this analysis in their report. I conclude that the proposed dwelling separation exceeds average in the area by over 2 times and the theoretical separation by over 4 times. On this basis, the spirit and intent of the zoning bylaw is very much maintained. From a planning perspective, the official plan is considered to represent the public interest. The subject lands are designated both rural and environmental protection within the Brighton zoning official plan. Notwithstanding the underlying rural designation, environmental protection policies apply to the site and general area. Section 4.14 of the official plan specifically outlines development policies within the environmental protection designation and permits lot creation. This has been reviewed in detail in my planning rationale. Environmental protection is primarily intended for the preservation and conservation of natural land and environment, and to protect these features in areas from incompatible development. Again, the property, along with the surrounding areas already developed with rural residential uses and Brighton Recycling and Brighton Speedway also in the general area. On this basis, along with the expanded environmental protection zone on the property and consent agreement, the creek and wetland are very much protected, and there is no apparent incompatibility concerns on one new dwelling on these features or the surrounding homes. I note that the municipal planning consultant is of the opinion that an amendment to the official plan is required as the applications do not conform. Again, I respectfully disagree with my colleague, as this is only based on 2 specific policies. I've provided a complete, detailed analysis of the applicable sections: 4.2 rural, 4.14 environmental protection, and 5.2 guidelines for land severance approvals. It is a common planning practice to review planning documents in their entirety so as to fairly evaluate development. If this is not undertaken, along with accounting for the context of the land, there is a risk of cherry picking to suit conclusions. From my complete analysis of the Brighton official plan, I've concluded that there are no policies that require relief from, and that the public interest is upheld through providing the prescribed environmental setbacks and expanding the environmental protection zone that we are proposing. We are also proposing enhanced protection through a consent agreement, which is detailed in the alternative consent conditions I have prepared. Restrictive covenants were discussed last week with Lower Trent Conservation Environmental Planner and Regulations Officer, to which she was agreeable in principle to the enhanced protection it provides beyond the proposed zoning amendment. We do not feel her original site plan agreement recommendation is appropriate, as there are no works requiring securities to be posted. With respect to stormwater servicing, restorative buffers, a vegetation protection zone already exists on site, landscaping, or any work in the municipal right-of-way, or that typically requires enacting Section 41 of the Planning Act. Same as restrictive covenants, consent agreements accomplish the same end, as they are also registered on title and transferred from owner to owner in perpetuity, running with the land. The consent agreement will work in concert with the expanded environmental protection zone, the Brighton zoning bylaw, the Lower Trent permit process, and the Brighton permit process, where Brighton and Lower Trent staff will review and approve specific building plans. My firm has been involved with this project since February 2020. Upon my involvement, my clients provided a chronology that extends back to May 2018, 3 years ago. I note that there has been extensive consultation with Lower Trent Conservation and the municipal planning consultant. This said, there appears to have been a breakdown in communication beginning October 2019. My firm was retained shortly thereafter. I commenced immediately by preparing an accurate consent sketch to form the basis of my own pre-consultation with the municipality. This consisted of changing the lot configuration to completely avoid the Presqu'île Bay Marsh, to ensure the severance was consistent with the provincial policy statement. A meeting was attempted with the municipal planning consultant to discuss the nature and extent of my proposal. However, it was declined, and we were asked to consult with the new director of planning in October 2020. Shortly thereafter, we received an email from the director concurring with the municipal planner's position without any meeting or discussion with RFA, and we were referred back to the municipal planning consultant who already declined to consult further regarding the applications. Since then, RFA has consulted further with Lower Trent to confirm environmental setbacks and also with the county to confirm entrance requirements. The applications were refined on this basis. It is important to note that 4 different municipal planners have been involved since commencing the severance process back in 2018, which has been very challenging for my clients. Since 2018, they have had the following studies prepared by environmental, engineering, and planning professionals: an environmental impact study, a woodland evaluation, a planning rationale, and a geotechnical assessment. Consent and rezoning applications were filed late November 2020. A letter was received from the municipal planning consultant in February 2021, and the applicants undertook some of the additional work outlined to verify entrance requirements and foundation design. Notice of complete application was received April 2021, 4 months following our late November submission and 4 times the prescribed timeframe within the Planning Act. By reviewing the consultation and work initiated to date, I wish to confirm that my clients have made every effort to consult with staff and agencies and undertake all reasonable requirements in support of their applications for consent and rezoning, including hiring a professional ecologist, engineer, and planner to provide technical expertise. To this end, my clients have spent significant funds over the course of 3 years to prepare various technical studies required to support the applications following the municipality's direction. We now wish to confirm what council feels are fair and reasonable application requirements to provide sufficient information to base an informed decision for the proposed single consent. Finally, I wish to summarize my professional planning opinion. A detailed, comprehensive planning rationale has been prepared in support of the applications. I found they conform to the PPS, the growth plan, county official plan, and Brighton official plan. I've given careful and specific consideration to the matter of lot frontage and configuration in my rationale. I conclude there is no apparent concerns with the retained lot frontage, as the severed lot is half the minimum density and will provide 4 times the normal dwelling separation with dense intervening vegetation. Also, that the existing dwelling is nearly 300 meters away. This dense intervening vegetation will be protected by the zoning and consent agreement I've proposed. The requested retained lot frontage is due to environmental reasons where the average is over 50 meters, exceeding the rural residential standard. If the creek were not present, there would be no request for lot frontage. I note that the municipal planning consultant concluded that there is no specific criteria for evaluating lot frontage. It is our professional planning opinion that the request for relief for lot frontage or configuration is not a trigger for an OPA. I've not been able to discuss the merits of the changes I have made to the applications as there was a breakdown in communication with the municipality. I reviewed the report prepared by the municipal planning consultant and note that key merits of the applications have been ignored and I have been unable to verify a number of their conclusions on this basis, including questions of conformity with the PPS growth plan and proposed driveway, which have been addressed with the information provided. It is unfortunate that there are conflicting professional opinions. In my experience, the times the planners disagree is very rare. There is also conflicting environmental opinions, which is also rare in my experience. I can confirm that upon my involvement, key changes were made to the applications that were informed by consultation with Lower Trent and the county, resulting in no objections from these key agencies. Again, the proposal is not a major subdivision with hundreds of lots. It is a single lot consent for a family member. My clients have spent the past 3 years trying to create a parcel for their granddaughter to build her home, and have spent a large sum of money on hiring a professional ecologist, engineer, and planner in doing so. They are depleting their savings and are very concerned that the process may not end. My clients have been trying to satisfy all applicable policies and requirements and have done all fair and reasonable work to support a single lot consent. In conclusion, my hope is that council can see the forest through the trees, that my clients have undertaken all fair and reasonable requirements for a single lot, and that the mountain of evidence in support of the applications provides enough information in which to base a decision. Thank you for bearing with me, and I'm here to assist any questions council may have. Just a final note that I have prepared a draft amending bylaw and an alternative list of conditions that I provided the clerk, which I'm also happy to review. Thank you.
And those were sent out by email in advance of this meeting to members of council, Mr. Leger, just so you're aware. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Are there persons present who have questions or comments regarding the proposed consent and zoning bylaw amendment applications? And Madam Clerk, are you aware? I see someone with their hand up there. Go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Melissa Goodison. I'm the property owner at 649 County Road 64, the property to the west. Yeah, I was just looking at the consent sketch, and I will note that the planner had mentioned 300 meters distance to the existing property. The distance, according to the sketch here, is 80 meters to my house here at 649. My only concern regarding the proposal here is the maintenance of the vegetation, the woodlot that would separate the proposed location from my property. I would like to see something in writing to support the maintenance of the vegetation buffer between their property and my property.
Thank you, Ms. Goodison. I see the planning consultant nodding his head, and he'll have an opportunity, or the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to these questions before we close out the statute, or before we close out this portion of the statutory public meeting.
Okay.
Thank you for your question and comments. Madam Clerk, are you aware of anyone else who's joining us for this purpose?
No, I think everybody that has requested is up on the screen. So I think that's it.
Okay, so I'll just ask one more time if there's anyone else present who has comments or questions for these applications.
I would like to just add that this process has been very long and time consuming and costly. And I think there needs to be maybe a more streamlined process for your rural residents putting forward an application such as this. But thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Are there any questions or comments regarding the proposed consents or zoning bylaw amendment from members of council? Councilor LeBlanc?
I have, your Mayor, Worship. I have two questions for the proponent's planner. Am I allowed to ask questions to our planner yet?
You can ask, but now's the opportunity for you to ask your questions.
Okay.
We will get the proponent to make final comments, and they will hopefully answer your questions in those final comments. And then we will turn to Mr. Walsh for final comments, and hopefully if you have questions for our planner, he can answer those questions as well at that time.
One of the questions was RR 27 on the official plan. I believe he said the lot frontage there could be less than 10 feet or 10 meters. I'd like him to qualify on that one. The second question is, when do you planners or professionals, are they like professional engineers or PGO in province of Ontario? Do they only have one body that they go to, or do they have multiple bodies because of the difference in opinions here? Secondly, the significant woodland, when I read the Lower Trents report, I walked the lot on Sunday, and I did not see any significant different woods than normal hardwoods, normal poplars. And when I read the study, they only missed like 3 acres, but the house, the property zoning is nowhere where there's a significant woodlot. So why would they require another study? The geotechnical study, when you look at the soil study for the geotechnical, it's usually for multiple houses or a dwelling that's going to be 3 to 4 to 5 stories, or there was fill brought on the property and it's not stable, or it's on the side of an embankment or a bank. And this is very stable, been there for a long period of time. When they talk about the creek I see it more as a drainage ditch when they put in County Road 64, and it drains all the fields and all the farmland. That's why it's silting in, because it's more densified farming going on. When you look at a creek, if you look at the racetrack, there is a creek, and the rainbow trout still go there because I fish it every year. So that's still an active creek with fish habitat. This one doesn't have any fish habitat for trout or walleye to go up. My question is, why do they need new studies? And this is the other question. Why did it take so long for all the studies to come? Why wasn't the proponent given all that was required right at the start? Instead, as soon as they hit one benchmark, if I read the file, then they were giving another benchmark. They hit that benchmark, then they were given that prolonged it. And we've discussed this at council about having a pro forma. So if somebody wants to do a rural lot, they actually know what is required. And it's been going on for planning for a long time. And I know that Mr. Walsh, our planner, is going to be addressing these points because he said so in past council meetings. I hope these are my questions. I hope they can answer them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. Councilor LeBlanc, pardon me. Councilor Anderson? You're muted, Ron.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Somewhere in all these documents, it talks about the water table or the water availability. I'm talking potable water. It's mentioned about 3.5 feet or so is before you hit water table and the amount of water. Can anybody comment on that? Why that? I think the Laura Trent may have brought that up. But I know it was something that caught my eye that I need some answers about. And also the road, Northumberland County wants to straighten that road, or they want to portion of that frontage to be given to the county so they could straighten that road someday. So I didn't hear anything about that tonight either.
We'll look to the two planners to make comment on both of those items. Councilor Anderson. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. My question is for our planner, the municipal planner. I guess just in simple terms, obviously there's perhaps a difference of opinion. I'd like to hear in simple terms why it is that council is being asked to deny this application.
Thank you.
To the mayor?
Well, Mr. Walsh, I'll get you when you do your final comments.
Sure.
To address these questions rather than doing a back and forth now.
Great.
Councilor Bateman.
My questions are for the director as well, so I can wait till final comments if that's okay with you, Mayor.
I'd like you to ask your questions now, Councilor
Go
Bateman.
ahead now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can address those questions when we get there.
Okay, well, Mr. Walsh, when we read the report, we spoke today on the phone, and I just wanted you to clarify what we talked about on the phone. When you look at the report, I believe when you're looking at the actual report that was sent, it's on page, what did we say, 11. And I think there's maybe 7 or 8 items on there. The first one being that an EIS be updated to satisfaction of the Lower Trent. And when we spoke, I think what I took from that conversation, that wasn't really necessary. It was am I off base in saying that right now, or? Is my question on that one. And the second one is the geotechnical assessment to be peer reviewed. And when we spoke, if you've got the peer review, the assessment, a peer review would be done off-site. It could be anywhere. They're not even going to be on-site to do the peer review. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with any municipality CBO. So regardless of what an assessment would or would not say, if our CBO or municipality CBO sees something in the ground regarding the soil not being suitable without something being done, it could be adjusted then, would be the question, if you can confirm that. Because I think in our conversation, having the assessment or even a peer review of one isn't 100% necessary in this case. That's all I have for now. There may be more.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Councilor LeBlanc.
When it comes to potable water, there's to you, Your Honor. when it comes to potable water, there's already 2 homes that have potable water there. And anybody that's in the rural area should all have a UV light anyway, because that should be after Walkerton, that should all be there. So just to answer that one, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead, Councillor Tadman. We're not really able to hear you very well.
Oh,
I've noticed that Councillor Tadman keeps popping in and out of the meeting, so I wonder if she's having some connectivity problems this evening. With everyone's permission, if we can get Councillor Tadman back in, we will get her to ask her question or make her comment when she's able to, rather than waiting to see if she can come in. I see that she's here. I don't know if she can hear us. Councillor Tadman, are you able to ask your question now?
It's going on. I'm quite long this have 2003. Always have more than their share of volunteering to this municipality, and have always been very cognizant of the environment and worked hard. And I went out one time, cleaned up garbage. So
I wasn't able to hear you very well. I don't know if anyone else was, but I think what you were saying was you're speaking well of the applicants and their volunteerism in the community and their active participation with the environment, etc. That's what I gathered from that, and I think she's gone again. So I hope I wrapped that one up as well as Councillor Tadman had intended. Is there anyone else on council who should make comment or has questions? Mr. Leger, do you have any final comments, and perhaps you can address some of the questions and comments that were made by members of council and the neighbor?
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. With respect to Melissa's comments, we, as part of an alternative conditions as proposed by the municipal planning consultant, we were recommending a consent agreement as a nice simple way to implement the vegetation protection zone, which would include the consent sketch, which clearly outlines the setbacks that would be required. And so that would be one of the features that we're proposing. The other is zoning, which is enforceable as well. So we provided a rezoning sketch. I can pull that up if you wish, if that helps to illustrate the thing. But on both sides of the, whatever we're calling it, a creek, a drainage ditch, that we have area on both sides of that, pretty much all of which is on the subject property. And so that's through zoning and the consent agreement. Those are the means by which are normal and typical to implement such a vegetation protection zone. And so that would be something in writing that Melissa is looking for, that the owners would agree to, or they do agree to rather. With respect to Councillor LeBlanc's comment about the frontage, this is in the zoning bylaw. That I found, that there's different opinions, different planning bodies. No, there's not different planning bodies. Some planning policies are subject to interpretation. So sometimes, rare, you do get conflicting opinions. But in this case, I wasn't able to verify my colleague's findings, as there's some of portions of the application that were missing from their report. So I wasn't able to verify their findings. With respect to the water table, I think Councillor LeBlanc did mention that there's 2 homes in the general area close by, that there's wells. That was essentially, wasn't part of the geotechnical assessment, that was to assess the soils, not the water table. The engineer that my clients hired, it was just simply a little add-on informing them that they may need to install a cistern to assist with potential supply issues. But there wasn't any conclusive investigation undertaken, because the question was about the soil conditions and for foundations, not water supply. So I just wanted to clarify that. And further to Councillor Anderson's comments about road widening, I've had a conversation with the county. They've also provided comments. In my conversation and through written email, I didn't see any request for a road widening, so I'm not quite clear what that's referring to. Councillor Vink's comment is, I believe, directed towards the director, so I'll leave that one. Councillor Bateman noted necessary to update. I think the other ones, sorry, I was just taking notes quickly while everybody was talking. I think that's about it for things that I may be able to assist with. I think the others were for the Director of Planning. Thank you.
Thank you. And do you have any final comments before we move on to the director?
Only that I have prepared an amending bylaw and alternative set of conditions. I believe council has seen it. So prepared those to assist with, in case there is a discussion about potential alternatives, that council had something prepared in advance to speak to. So that is available. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Walsh, perhaps you could address the questions that were asked of you and make any final comments you have.
Sure, Mayor. Mayor to Council, there were some comments about conformity with official plan and configuration of the lot, and keeping with the direction of the official plan, both in lot area, lot frontage. I think to answer the Deputy Mayor's question simply, is that having lots of such little lot frontage compared to the standards as required by the zoning bylaw, for example, is a very dangerous precedent. And I think that's what had really leapt out for municipal planning consultant as well as the director of planning in terms of setting a precedent for severed lots going forward in the future. That's important to maintain the rural character through having the frontage requirements being met. Staff and municipal consultant are also very cognizant of how many people making inquiries about severances who are directed to achieve that frontage, and then making some significant from that may not necessarily be viewed publicly as being consistent with the messaging from administration. So I think it's important to be consistent, therefore fair, and there was some adherence to those standards, and I think appropriately so in this case. The lot area for the retained land, has the creek through it. So Mr. Legier pointed out how much lot area and lot frontage that particular parcel has, but once you deduct the EP zoning, which is what the zoning bylaw directs one to do, that you need to achieve the lot area, lot frontage requirements in the intended zone. So for example, if you need 45 meters frontage in a rural residential zone, then you really need to have that outside of the EP area. Likewise with lot area. And so once you deduct the EP areas from lot frontage and lot area of the retained parcel, then we're really looking at something much lesser than the 2 acres that presented in the application. And the planning justification report is characterized by Mr. Legier. In terms of the list of conditions, alternative conditions, haven't had a good amount of time to review this. This has been somewhat last minute, but I have put some thoughts to it in the event that council may have an interest in considering approval of the provisional consent, giving a provisional approval of the consent. One conspicuous thing often is the lack of requiring an entrance being finally approved by the county. Really needs, we do have some positive comments that way, but they do give some qualifications to that entrance and where it might locate. There seems to be maybe some coordination following that with Lower Trent and some spacing requirements for the existing entrance, cross culvert, and that sort of thing. So there is some, if maybe buts there from the county, and I think there's going to be a necessary review of the permitting process for the entrance. So the entrance isn't a slam dunk; it needs to be still given some examinations. But having that as a conditional of the consent decision will be important. The agreement, the development agreement. So at some point in the number of emails that were being bantered about late last week, looking at a recital, but I'm glad to see that Legier has suggested the development agreement. That's much more appropriate. The consent section of the Planning Act does permit development agreements to be entered into. And typically these agreements are required to be used in the event that we do have a study with conclusions and recommendations going forward. And we need to address those issues going forward. So in this case, we need a development agreement to deal with some of the vegetative protection zones, as Ms. Legier rightly pointed out. And in that case, we have an opportunity to address the EIS with some of the open-ended issues that Lower Trent have expressed some concern that that there perhaps isn't the full question of whether it's a significant woodlot addressed, and that sort of thing. So I think through the agreement, maybe we can address those final issues and avoid additional supplementary information on in the EIS. I do notice that done with the EIS that the woodlot there is an early succession species, so it's only maybe, it doesn't look that old. The applicant can probably tell us better than myself, but around 20 years old at most. So it's not a very old woodlot, and it is a species that like wet conditions, and the lot is maybe about a meter above the water there. It's pretty flat, and the culvert is about 3 to 4 feet. Didn't measure it, but just distant look. So there is quite a volume of water going through there at times, and so the correspondence from the neighbor who we heard from earlier did express some initial concerns about some flooding there. But Conservation Authority has indicated that while the setbacks are achieved, and they're not so concerned about the prospect of flooding. We can address some of these outstanding issues through the agreement and avoid, I think, any peer review. Councillor Bateman asked questions about the geotech. I don't think we need to have peer review on that. Yes, the building code gives the chief building official the opportunity to look at suitability of the soils, make sure that any bottoms of excavations intended for footings and foundations are achieving resistance, and in the absence of that, ask for some engineered footings. The geotech identified that the water table is just about a meter below grade, which is kind of concurrent with where you see the water level now. And so the building code requires I think it's 8 inches above the water table for any footings. And so the geotech was glad to see advises a raised foundation. So I think the geotech has definitely done the job that it's intended to do and identify those critical issues, and informs the owner and making sure that their home going forward is going to be better for it. So the creek being described as a drainage ditch, it does function more than that. It takes quite a bit of drainage, given the size of the culvert. Mr. Councillor LeBlanc asked about the reiterative requests of different studies. I'd have to go back to the municipal planning consultant to see why there was maybe a lingering or revisiting of the question of studies. That may have been just due to different consultations with different bodies at different times, and also there might be a benefit from municipality having a complete application bylaw and a pre-consultation bylaw together. I think these would be beneficial in addressing some of these issues, and I have been asking our new manager approvals to work on that. In fact, we had a conversation earlier today on that very matter. The question of the water table and the the well, the geotechnical study, excuse me, indicated that the water yields in the area were of the low side. So you never really know what you find in the ground until you start digging. But given the proximity of the water course and the high level of the water table, I would think that perhaps the well should be fairly well, volume producing. I'd be more concerned about the influence of surface water on the water quality of the well. The new Ontario water taking regulations under Regulation 903 in particular now require about 100-foot casing for any drilled well, and I'm hoping that this will be the case here, not a dug well, but a cased well will help with any potential problems from surface contaminants reaching a potable supply. I didn't really catch any comments from the county regarding road widening. I was kind of aware of that issue as well and wondered why they didn't comment on it, other than the fact that maybe they know that they have the widening as required. So if it would be maybe prudent and good insurance, good stewardship as a public interest body to maybe make that as an added condition that the county be satisfied with any widening of the road allowance so that we achieve the minimum of probably 43 feet from the center line of the county road. Mayor, I believe that's a response to most of the questions. Answer any additional questions required.
Do you have any final comments before I circle back to council?
I don't believe I have any more comments, Mayor.
Thank you. So normally we would go on and ask if you want to make a decision, but I think some members of council have, during the course of the quote unquote final comments, have other questions in mind. So I think I saw Deputy Mayor Vink's hand go up.
Thank you. These are always difficult when they come to us. I think as council, we don't want to make decisions that staff don't agree to, but we also want to be able to grant these sorts of things whenever we can. So I would like to grant this tonight, but I want to make sure, or I need to make sure we're not doing anything that or if there's anything boxes that need to be ticked so that we can do this properly. I don't want to make a mistake tonight either in doing that or miss something, I guess. So I guess for me, that's what I need to hear. If we were to grant this tonight, are there a few things that need to be taken care of in order to do that properly?
So there is on page 11, 20 of 188, if we did decide to go down the road of granting consent, there are a number of conditions provided there. And Mr. Leger also gave us an alternate course of action if we wanted to go down that road. And if that is what council wishes to do, and I'll have this discussion in a second, but if this is what council wishes to do, I think I would ask that Mr. Walsh and Ms. Doran have a conversation to draft an appropriate motion for council to pass that includes all of the appropriate conditions, because things have changed since the publishing of this agenda. We've had some additional information come in from the county, I think from the county, and of course we've also seen some additional information from the applicant's planner as well. So, you know, I agree, if we want to go down that road, we want to get it right. So I would want our planner and the clerk to draft a motion for council that makes sense, if that's council's wish to do. So I'll circle back to that question in a second. And does that satisfy your question, Deputy Mayor? Thank you. Councilor Bateman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple follow-ups for the director. One on the correspondence from the county. The only thing that was sent by the county, and I think we all received it, was they had their need of a certain portion being deeded to the county for frontage. And I think that was sent to all of council. I haven't seen anything on road widening either. And when you just mentioned, Mayor, the list of conditions, and I had stated earlier, I think that's on page 11 of the report. And Mr. Walsh, based on what you had said on number 2 there, the geotechnical assessment peer review. So we go down that road, will that be stricken from here, since based on what you have said, that's not necessary? That will be taken out and not left in?
To the mayor, to council, yes, I don't feel that a peer review is necessary for the geotech. It indicated what I think is critical in this situation. And I think further, to my experience, is going to maybe dig some holes and additional holes and that sort of thing. But I think that report is, as brief as it was, is sufficient for my needs.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, this is just more of a comment than anything, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but I was told our last council meeting, we don't set precedent. We make decisions based on that, and I've heard that word multiple times tonight. So this is just to be a decision of council. We're not setting any precedent by doing anything we're doing tonight.
We're just not smart enough to set precedent, Councilor Bateman. That's just how it is. Councilor Rowley, I think I saw your hand go up.
You did, and I want to concur with Councilor Bateman's comment regarding decisions and precedent, but a couple of comments. I think the applicants have been dragged down a long road to get this done, so hopefully we can kind of get close to an end. The comments on page 11 of this report, I'm sure that the applicants are aware of the conditions that are still outstanding for the municipality, and they're in agreement with those. Meaning the geotechnical, which our planner just said probably isn't required anymore, but the confirmation from the county and the other list of what have we got, a list of 9 here. Everyone's comfortable with those?
Mr. Leger, I believe Councilor Rowley is referring to the conditions set out on page 20 of 188 of the report. This is the
yes,
second last or near to last page of the consultant's report to us, which is the conditions if we choose to grant conditional consent tonight. Is your client aware of these conditions, and is that the question? Are they aware of them?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Are they aware and yes, in agreement with those?
There you go.
Yes, we have reviewed the conditions together. They are absolutely in agreement with 5 through 9. They're all 4 through 9, which are all, or sorry, I just have it pulled up here. Be rezoned. No, it was 5 through 9. So Cash and New Parkland to the digital copies of the survey. So they're absolutely in agreement with those. The ones that and we had carried those forward as they were very typical and normal requirements. Where we differed was instead of having conditions 1 through 4, which is update EIS, peer review geotech, and the county and about the driveway and the H symbol. That's where we varied a little. That a lot of this could just simply be accomplished by undertaking the consent agreement, in which case we were proposing some very specific provisions regarding clearing of vegetation through April through August, or sorry, not clearing vegetation April through August, and other items related to any clearing of vegetation. So that's where we varied. That's where I provided the alternative list,
Yes.
but we are okay with confirming the driveway location. I can confirm that in my discussion with the county that they simply asked for 4 to 5 meter separation between the existing culvert for 677 in which case we provide almost double that where the sketch proposes. So there really wasn't a specific concern when I was discussing the matter with the county. So including the condition as Mr. Walsh suggested to confirm the get the entrance permit is agreeable.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any other members of council who had additional questions before we move on?
May I speak, Mayor?
You may, Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. I think we've come to a very good conclusion after going through this since 2018. And I would totally support what Ms. A has brought forward now, and hopefully all this will be taken care of when they actually apply for the permit to build. I can't see any reason why we wouldn't move forward now and unanimously support these people. I think it's been cruel. We could have been, I'm sure that the Taj Mahal was built quicker than this, what they've gone through here, and they've had to have the patience of Job to get to tonight. So I think we should move forward tonight and as quick as possible with the conditions that are proposed by John Legere.
Thank you, Councillor Tadman. Keeping in mind, of course, the Taj Mahal was built by an autocrat and not in a democracy. So we have to be cognizant of process, even sometimes when the process carries on a little longer than it suits us.
I could always use another example, like the retirement home didn't take as long to build to get to the agenda as this.
There you go. Much better example. So members,
very funny, Mayor.
Members of council, I will ask if we wish to make a decision this evening, and I suspect the answer is yes, but I look for a nod or shake of heads. Do we wish to make a decision this evening? Yes. Councillor Anderson, you're waving your hand.
Thank you, Mayor. So you're going to move ahead. I agree with moving ahead with this tonight. With that long list of 9 or 8 items, are we going to update that list? You mentioned something about Mr. Walsh updating some items, having a discussion.
That's going to be my next question. My next question, I'm going to go around the table and just ask you to say yes or no. Do you want to move ahead with the proposed resolution? That's part of the consultant's report, which is to deny the one severance and to deny the bylaw amendment, or would you wish to move forward with a motion that grants consent tonight? So just very quickly, without of course presupposing what that motion will look like, because we'll ask the planner and clerk to get together on that. So Deputy Mayor, do we want to move forward with the original motion as per the report, or with a motion that grants consent?
No to the original, yes to a new one.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson.
With the consent.
So yes to granting consent tonight?
Yes.
Conditions? Councillor Bateman?
Move forward granting consent tonight.
Thank you, Councillor LeBlanc.
Moving forward with granting consent tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley.
Moving forward with granting consent tonight.
Councillor Tadman, thank you. Councillor Tadman.
100% move forward tonight.
All right, and I concur with that as well. So, Mr. Walsh, how long would you need to have a conversation with the clerk to prepare a motion appropriate with the conditions that are also appropriate for the granting of consent?
Mayor, I feel like I've gotten about halfway through it already with the help of the clerk. So what I'll if with permission of the mayor and council, I'll also work with Mr. Legier to ensure that some of the wording is to his satisfaction as well. Just make sure things go smoothly forward.
Okay, so if I call a 10-minute recess, can we get the three of you to phone each other rather than do it via Zoom over the public meeting and get a motion in front of council? It sounds like council wants to move forward. We don't want to defer this to another meeting. I know the applicants don't want us to defer this to another meeting. So is 10 minutes enough?
I believe so, Mayor, yes.
Okay. Councilor Rowley.
Thank you. Just to our Director of Planning, will you be taking into consideration the alternative conditions that the planner for the applicant has emailed to us earlier today?
Yes, absolutely. It'll look like a bit of a blend or a hybrid between the two.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
So I will go ahead, Madam Clerk.
We can continue with the meeting, Paul. Oh, I guess we can't.
No, I need
Paul.
I need the planner.
Okay.
He's got work to do.
Okay.
So I will call a 10-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 7:45 p.m. I'll ask the two planners and the clerk to come together and prepare a motion for council. And Madam Clerk, I will come and get a printed copy from you downstairs, but I'll also get you to email me a copy, because what I'll do is I'll share it on my screen for the benefit of everyone. Fair enough? Okay, so if everyone on now could mute yourselves and stop your videos, we'll reconvene